Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is July 21st, 2022. This is my frame from a 2003 Chevy S10 4-door quad cab, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing a frame off resto myself. I don't have much experience in restoration work. I've done a lot of resto on body work and things like that, but this is the first frame I'm doing. I'm a do-it-yourself welder. I've taught myself to weld, so I have basic welding skills. I do have an Eastwood welder, which has really been helpful, and I use a lot of Harbor Freight stuff. I use their 4.5 angle grinder, and I beat the snot out of it, and they last me a long time. So I'm kind of a budget guy. So I just wanted to put this video out here because there's not much information on doing a frame yourself on these particular 4-door, 4-wheel drive S10s or Sonomas. So I want to show you a few things on the frame before I get into the tools I'm using that I found are very important. So on the front left driver's side, I'm intending on using, I've already used this rig which you guys have seen, I'm sure, on videos. The problem with the S10 frames is access to getting into the frame, which you think would be pretty straightforward considering it's a box frame. Well, it isn't on the S10, the access ports. So on the driver's side where your power steering mounts, there are welded pieces inside here that won't allow you to use this to pass through from the front. So how are you going to get in here with your whip from the back? It's really not happening, and I'll show you why. So let me get a flashlight. So this is the driver's side front rail. You can see that angled piece of iron coming down. You're not getting by that. Okay. Passenger side, not a problem. I'll get to those cutouts in a second. So from the back, what you have to access the frame is right here. So this is a little narrow, okay? Your PVC pipe and whip will go in that, but come back here, is your access right there, but that PVC is very, very restricted because of your supports. These are welded on, and those are factory riveted. Those aren't coming off unless you plan to take them off and re-weld them, which I wouldn't attempt because they have to be perfect when you weld those back in place to meet the cab and bed mounting holes. So what do? That's on both sides. Here's your access port for your whip and PVC on your driver's side, but again, it's not bending through this crap. So, having basic welding skills, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can do this. And I thought about this a lot. I've cut two rectangular holes with my grinder with a cutoff wheel, and I did it big enough in a flat area that I can use my whip go in, and it goes all the way down. You know, you put your cordless drill on there, it goes all the way down, and it comes out that point at the end. You can do that on both sides. And I can turn it around, run it up to here, but I don't have to on the passenger side. I can just go through here, through the front on the passenger side, and on the driver's side I can run it in up to that bracket for the power steering pump. Then I can flip it around over here and come in and up to that bracket inside the frame. Then I can flip it around and run it back to my frame to the end. And when I'm done, some guys blow it out with a leaf blower, some guys pressure wash it out. I just have some bilge pump hose that I'm going to attach to my wet dry vac and run that in there back and forth. And that'll do. So this is what I found. It had a factory coating inside, which is like, it's still good. Called Eastwood. Said, I got your internal frame coating. I got 3 cans. I said, is that going to be okay on this as far as compatibility with maybe an oil-based product or petroleum-based product or polyurethane-based product, polyester or whatever? Not a problem. It's going to dry to pretty much a hard finish. That stuff's meant to spray pretty much over anything on the inside of your frame, but you do want to get off as much crap as you can. Okay, so this I have done with the whip and pipe on my drill. I have done this already, and I want to just say that anything I'm doing, I'm not liable for whatever you do. You're responsible for however you do it. This is just some ideas of how I did it. I will say that I have watched the other videos on the extensions and whips, and some of the guys claim that the inside of the frame looked great. Well, I doubt that unless you actually see finished pictures that they've provided. This the chains that I've used, I've tried different lengths, does not actually remove internal frame, from my experience, internal frame coating. It removes loose dirt and any loose rust. The inside of the frame isn't bad actually, so I'm happy with that. That's all loose crap sitting there. So I'm going to show you what I've learned. So this is the chain I started with, and I cut the ends and I left them sharp. I put 3 on the front, 3 on a back spacer, and did absolutely nothing. Then I looked at the videos and I went with a heavier chain, thinking that the light chain is just not, the force behind it was not removing the rust and junk, and I saw that people were using these. Well, the problem with these, I didn't even put this on. I'm using a 3/16 chain, with the coating on it. Okay, it's got the rubberized coating on it. So I ended up going with, I wanted the heaviest chain I could get without causing too much twist at the drill. So what I did is I took this cross-link chain. What I like about it is it's going to get into the corners better. It's got nice welds on it, which act as chipper, I guess you might call it. But I want you guys to see this. What I did on the ends here is I put this in a vise and I cut the very tip of it. I didn't want ends rounded because that's not going to cut anything. I wanted my ends sharp. So I cut just the ends off with my grinder with the cutoff wheel, and then I crimped the ends in the vise. So now, if you can see it, the longer part of that link is the cut ends. So the centrifugal force is throwing this cut end, it's keeping it out versus this. See, I crimped them together. It won't even, the round end doesn't even stay there. Whenever I run it, the long end, the total length of that is longer on the sharp side. So just keep that in mind if you decide to use a cross-link chain. I found that to work good, and as I showed you inside the frame, it still doesn't actually take it down to bare metal. That's unlikely. If that's possible, I'd love to see a video, but that's just not happening. So I'm just getting it down to where it's acceptable, and I'm going to clean it out with a dry vac and use Eastwood's internal frame spray. 3 cans. And a tip on that, which you guys might know, is take a wire. The internal frame spray comes with like a 2-foot clear vinyl hose. I'm just going to take some old brake tubing and tape it or zip tie it to it, probably 3 feet of it or 2 feet of it, whatever I need. That way I can bend it and shape it to go up inside the frame. And as you can see, there's plenty of ports on the frame where I can stick that nozzle in and just spray back and forth. Eastwood has a video on that. It's pretty simple. So my plan is, and it's not taking long, I spent probably 10 minutes on each side with that chain and whip. It's noisy, so you might want to wear eye protection, and I would, and ear muffs or earplugs. So I'm just gonna, I have 2 magnets for welding. I'm just gonna grind this off, and I'm gonna clean up my piece that goes back on here. I'm gonna pre-spray the inside of it, or maybe not, and I'm just gonna put it in here with my 2 magnets and just spot weld it, tack weld it. Take my magnets off and just finish welding it, then grind it off, and I can go in from here and just spray it out with this spray coating and call it good. So I did call Eastwood. I'm going with pour 15 on the outside of this. There's going to be a little overlap from the internal frame spray. They said not a problem. Compatibility is fine with pour 15 and their spray. Pour 15 goes over anything anyways. So that's the inside of the frame. You've seen the tools, you've seen what I've using. That's a 7-foot, just over 7-foot piece of PVC pipe. ½ inch ID. You can get it cheap wherever. Okay. I left this about 4 inches. That goes into my drill. I like the bit of room going back and forth. If I can move that back and forth inside the frame, I've had no issues with that twisting or torquing because I did not use these as some guys do. That creates a loop on the end. This is unnecessary. In fact, I'm going to return these. When I saw this, I'm like, I'm just going to use hose clamps. Reason being is when you loop the end of this, it could get stuck inside the frame, and that's what's causing it to buckle or twist at your drill. I don't even tape the end of it with the drill. I've had no issues with that, and I've already done that one side. So what I did, this is a square bar end link bushing, head kicking around, and then just a metal washer. This helps, and this also helps keep this riding off the frame. So what I did here was I used hose clamps. Simple. You got them already probably kicking around. I took the tab end of the hose clamp and took it right out of this worm screw section. I put the tabs through the link, so the link is resting parallel with the cable. Okay, then this spins freely. Okay, the box section of the frame is like 3x5, so what I did is I cut these just over at the long side. So these are just about 4 inches total, so it has enough. So this front section is about 4 inches, okay, and the tall section of the frame is about 6 inches. So on the back I went longer. These are about 7 inches, okay, and those are offset. I have 2 chains, so these 2 chains are going this way, these 2 chains are going this way. Think about that. Okay, it makes it run smoother because they're offset. Also, I space these out about, I don't know, 2.5–3 inches, and that keeps that riding level down through the frame. I've had no issues with the setup. This frame, this pipe, PVC pipe, flexes enough that I was able to go through the front passenger side, down through, all the way down to there. So it was unnecessary for me to keep going through that bend. Okay, so again, if you can weld, or you have a friend that can weld, simply, there's no rhyme or reason to how I cut this. I just cut it big enough so I could put the PVC pipe in either direction. Okay? Outside of the frame, 36 grit Harbor Freight stuff. I think I got this at Homie's. Choices. Okay, I love this. That sucker right there takes rust off like no tomorrow, but it does not get in the grooves well. This gets in the grooves well. And then Harbor Freight hand brushes for like $1.50 maybe. Good stuff. So I'm going to brush the outside of the frame, get in all the nooks and crannies with hand brushes, and the bulk part of it I'm going to use all of these guys, maybe have some flap discs. These work great. The hand drill stuff works more tedious, but I suggest if you don't have a 4.5-inch angle grinder, you get one at Harbor Freight for 20 bucks on sale. Well worth it, and they come with replacement brushes. So this was just an intro to some obstacles in the frames for guys that have S10 4-door cabs. The back end's impossible, nearly impossible to get in with PVC pipe. So literally, listen, it's just easier to do yourself, save yourself a lot of work. That's a good spot to cut, because you can see you can go in straight there and you can come up straight there, and it's an easy spot to weld. Yeah, it sucks, but oh well. If you're doing a resto, plan on that. Next, you've probably seen these kicking around. S10's Joy. They have two different IDs on the supports. They have 2 inches on the back. They have 1.5. One and a half. These are 2 inches on the back. Amazon washers. These ones are were made for the S10. It's crazy. The washers themselves are 4.5. If you're good with a grinder, which I'm good with a grinder, I took off about 1/8, and with the grinding of the cut-off wheel, it took it down perfectly. Went right around. Okay, do some figuring first. Look at where you need to cut only. Okay, those are the 2-inch ID washers off Amazon. I forget how much I paid for them, but I got a 5-pack for probably, I don't know, $25 or $28, something like that. And then these are the 1.5-inch ID ones. They are plenty beefy. Okay, they are plenty thick. Sorry, I don't have a caliper, but they're plenty thick. They're just over 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay, and these ones happen to be 3 1/4 OD, which is perfect for what I'm doing. This one is still, no, it's thin here, so I'm going to replace it. Comes in a pack of 5. Paid 13 bucks and change, and that, try to remember to do a link in the video to that one, because that was free shipping. I ordered them on Sunday night. I got them Tuesday morning. Okay, these ones are toast. Alright, boom. Gonna find the center point, measure it, put this in place, draw a Sharpie around it, cut it out with a jigsaw, a metal blade, drop that in, tack weld it, and weld it up, grind it down, good to go. I think that's it. If you have any questions, like it and post your question. This is all just grease from the engine. Just take a walk around. That pour 15 will go over all the hand brushed, wire brushed, whatever you do with angle grinder brushed. On these, when I'm done with my PVC rig, I'm going to cut the PVC smaller and then cut the lengths of 3/16 cable smaller and shorter, and I'm going to experiment with different whips to go down the inside of that. And you can see there's nice big areas to get in there. I might not even use a PVC pipe. I might just hand feed it down in there to get those. The back one's going to be tricky because there's no way to get in there. So I might expand one of these holes so I can get my whip in and work it either way. Maybe I don't want to do the middle one, but maybe I'll cut a rectangle here that I can re-weld in. Cut it wide enough, say an inch. Take it out, have a nice access port, and tack weld it back in. That's probably what I'm going to do on that. All this rust, of course, on the back of your frame is the worst. I don't have any areas that are not unusable. This is plenty thick still. So if you have rust like this, put the wire brushes to it, the angle grinder to it, and go to 415 on it, or something similar. These are all still plenty thick. It's just surface rust. Thanks for watching. I hope if you have the same frame, this video helps you with the obstacles. Thanks for watching.